Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Hurry Up Live. I'm your host, Adam Costas, and today we are going to change it up a bit. Normally, we're talking about the New York Football Giants, as you can see in the background here, but we're going to change it up. Where are we going to change it up to? The AFC. I think the AFC is a conference we need to talk about, a conference that is probably the best in football right now, and probably I wouldn't be surprised if they end up hoisting the Lombardi this year. So, with that being said, we're going to start from the top. We're basically going to look at what a lot of these teams bring. And of course, if we have time, we'll bring some of you guys on so you guys can help join in on the chat as well. That way, you guys can join in. I might also drop the link in the StreamYard later on in the show. That way people can later on so people can join. You know what I mean? So with that being said, let's get started. We shall start with the AFC. Let's see. Do we want to start with the North? Let's go with the AFC. We'll start with the AFC East, okay, since they're already here, right? The AFC East. And we'll start with the we'll start with the top. We'll start with the top. The Buffalo Bills. Now, the Buffalo Bills are probably the cream of the crop. The cream of the crop. What's up, Mac? How are you doing? Mac, the Giant fan, is in here. Look for him and I at 5:30 this evening going over the NFC East. Right now, we're doing the AFC East in the AFC preview show today. Because it's funny, watching NFL Network, and, NFL Network probably should be on right now. I don't know where the remote is, but the point is that the AFC East, let's start with the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Buffalo Bills is everybody's media darling. They're in love. Everyone loves them. Everybody wants to be a part of them. Everyone wants to do, all the stuff that comes with being AFC champion, right? And they were in the game last year against, arguably the best team in football in the last couple of years in the AFC, and that was the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, they fell just a bit short, as you saw in that epic, probably instant classic game that we saw last divisional round. And for me, I'm not going to say that they're the AFC favorites. They're the team I would like to win the Super Bowl. Heck, I'll even pick them. That's how good I think they can be. And I think their draft was done very well. I think they brought in a lot of good pieces to kind of get going in that direction. But let's be real. Let's be real. This team has a lot of expectations on it. Things that we haven't seen since the 90s. I mean, if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you should be very excited about the prospect of your team, how they're going to go, what they're going to do, what things are going to happen for them. Because to me, so to me, I can agree with what's going on. I can agree with how. I can agree with that. I like the Buffalo Bills. I've always and I grew up in the era of NFL primetime, which is still around today, but it's not the same. Mac knows what I'm talking about. Mac, you know what I'm talking about. NFL primetime. And my favorite line used to be, "Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills." And I'm pretty sure up in Orchard Park, New York, they're circling the wagons up there. I know they lost Brian Dable to the team in New York and New Jersey. But I think they'll be fine. I think they have Ken Dorsey there. I think is their OC, and I think him and Josh Allen are going to work together. I think people need to realize how good Josh Allen has become, and the clay that was molded by that guy. I know we're talking about quarterbacks, and we will refrain from talking about the one that wears blue and has an NY on his helmet, because it seems to be, you touch on that subject, you're talking about inappropriate stuff. I mean, my God, you would think people would, be able to share some criticism, but, so I don't know, man. I think it's I think it's good. I think the Bills have the best chance of anybody. But let's be honest, just because they're the cream of the crop of the AFC East doesn't mean they're the cream of the crop of the AFC, right? So while we'll get back to them in a minute, but I think the Buffalo Bills are primed and ready, and they got to be one of your top teams in the AFC to be a Super Bowl contender. I mean, if you look at the NFC quickly, they don't have the same. It's not the same. It's not that conference is not as top heavy as the AFC. I mean, we went to the Bills, and we'll keep going to the AFC East quickly. A lot, I heard a lot of things on NFL Network last night that I thought were interesting. One is that Gerald McCoy, I don't know if you guys know him. He used to play D tackle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in the day. He was a solid player. He at one point you could have called him a Hall of Famer, but I don't think he has the chops right now. I think there's too much going on right now. So I don't think he's right there. His numbers don't stack up, but he was a pretty good player for the Buccaneers and the Panthers for a while. And he said that he thinks the Jets are going to win 10 games, which is pretty interesting to me. I mean, if I'm a Jet fan, I'd love that. I take that to the bank. But I think the Jets, in this instance, are going to be about a 7 to 8 win team. That's okay. That's okay. The quarterback is, everyone's like, oh, it's a question mark. I don't really believe Wilson is a question mark. I believe that's a media fabrication of quarterbacks. Yes, he's unproven, but, he has everything you're looking for. He's got the arm strength. He can move around in the pocket. He's got good pocket presence. He's got great arm angles with the throws. That allows him to make every throw on the field. I know I skipped over one team, but I thought it was interesting. I think, and I really do believe that, Zach Wilson's going to make a jump in progression this year. And I think the Jets are going to realize that they've got their guy. I like the way Robert Saleh is running the ship there. I think that they've got a good team that believes in and is going to buy into what they did. They had a solid draft, guys who are hungry and playing. And right now, this is the time where the Jets got to make, I wouldn't say a leap, but like that step in the direction of going to a upward position. Last year, they were kind of in the same boat as the Giants, even though Giant fans don't want to hear this, is that they got a new coach, they rebuilt, they basically took the car down to its studs and everything like that and rebuilt it and are rebuilding it now. And I think the Giants are doing the same thing. That's why I think the expectation for New York, and here we always go back to that team in blue, is their expectation shouldn't be about winning games, right? It shouldn't be about winning games. It should be about getting better, evaluating talent, and making sure that that we're getting the right message across. Because the Giants, just touching them again, is just like the Jets, are a young team. They need to learn how to win. That's a skill set that needs to be possessed, that needs to be taught, that needs to be ingrained in you. Okay, like they're showing highlights of teams. It's funny because the Rams back in the way day, were a bad team. They moved from St. Louis to LA to St. Louis, blah blah blah. Right? When they were the St. Louis Rams, they had a quarterback named Tony Banks on the team, and he was terrible. He was terrible. Sorry, folks. Being a dad, sometimes you have to take the little kids to the bathroom or, oh my God, or entertain them. So sorry about the pause. But what I was saying is that at this point, it's about the the growth and the building blocks. It's not necessarily, it's not necessarily what you intended to be, right? It's about growing, it's about building, and it's about showing your team that you can win. And Robert Saleh came from a winning program, just like Daboll, and they built it up, right? It took years to build up the Bills, and the Jets are in that boat right now. I think the draft was a very good draft. You're going to see a lot of those players, I believe, for the Jets for a long time. They got probably arguably the best corner in the draft, depending on who you talk to, and they got one of the best pass rushers in the draft, if not the best pass rusher in the draft. Again, debating on who you're talking to, right? So for me, if I'm the Jet fan, just let it be, baby. Just let it roll. Just let it ride. Let it ride. Let it roll. Let it ride. Hold on one moment. So, anyways, we're going to keep moving on from the Jets, and we'll go to the Miami Dolphins because there was something that was said about the Dolphins that I want to touch on that I think is big. With you. So, anyways, the Miami Dolphins are the Miami Dolphins, and Tyreek Hill again said something that I thought was interesting. Just like Davis Webb said something. Some of these guys sometimes you just gotta shut up, bro. Like shut up. Like give me a break. You're gonna tell me that Tua Tagovailoa, wow, that's a tongue twister, is better or more accurate than Patrick Mahomes? Yeah, okay. But does he have the arm strength? That's the difference here. Let's get into quarterbacks for a minute, real quick, because there was a discussion about quarterbacks in a different platform, podcast, whatever you want to call it these days, right? Whatever the kids are calling it these days, podcast streams, dreams, whatever. But they said something that I thought was interesting. They were like, well, the booty ass quarterbacks like Trent Dilfer and Brad Johnson and Nick Foles and Joe Flacco have won Super Bowls. I mean, okay, great. Yeah, that doesn't mean just because a bunch of bums won the Super Bowl doesn't mean that's how you win and sustain winning. The Bucs now have a quarterback who's almost 46 years old, and they're winning games now. Do you think that they would want Brad Johnson right now? You think the Bucs would trade Brad Johnson? The eras are different. Those days, the Ravens defense was one of the best defenses in the history of the NFL. Same thing with those Buccaneers teams. And you could even say the Ravens of 2012. And Flacco wasn't bad that year. He wasn't a bad quarterback. Okay, you might not like him, but he put up more numbers than Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer. Okay, Trent Dilfer came back and was an absolute shit show. Okay, he played for Tampa Bay. It was okay for Tampa Bay, and then got cut from Tampa Bay. And so when you have that, when people say, "Oh, well, you can win a Super Bowl if so and so wins a Super Bowl, you're going to love him." No, I'm not. Just because look at Nick Foles. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. Where the hell's that guy? Where the hell's that guy? Hostetler won a Super Bowl. Where the hell's that guy? Why would I want a quarterback to give me one and done? When the Patriots were good for years because their quarterback, the Kansas City Chiefs are always in the playoff hunt and looking for a championship. I mean, don't give me this garbage because we want to justify that a quarterback is good because he wins a Super Bowl. Or Jimmy Garoppolo brought a team to a Super Bowl. Give me a damn break. The reason they lost that game is because he wasn't a marquee quarterback. The reason the Rams lost the game with Jared Goff and won it this year is because of the quarterback. What did they do differently? What did the Rams do differently? Oh, they got rid of the quarterback. So don't tell me quarterbacks don't matter. And you can go to the Super Bowl with a booty ass quarterback. That's not what you want. Yeah, lightning strikes in a bottle, but that's not what you want to sustain. So for me, the Dolphins, Tyreek, you need to understand. I think Mike Daniels is going to have that team humming, but I don't think they're going to be the same team as he was in Kansas City. I don't think you're going to see the deep shots. I think you're going to see a lot more screens, slants, and they also have Jalen Waddle there. So hopefully their line can hold up and these guys can get the ball because that's what they're going to be. They're going to be like the Patriots back in the day, back in the 2000 Patriots, 2001 Patriots, where they're dinking and dunking, have little miniature receivers running up and down the field, catching passes. I think the Dolphins still are not there in the upper echelon of the AFC. I just don't believe it. I don't even know if they're the second team in their division, as the Jets might be there. I think it's going to be a tough race. And let's not forget, the Patriots are still in this division, and they have Mac Jones. So to me, if I were to rank their quarterbacks, I would probably go Allen 1, just because of bias here. Zach Wilson 2, Mac Jones 3, and Tua 4 in that order. Right, that's just how I rank them. Even though they're drafted at different positions, essentially the draft means nothing if you can show out and show up. Right, we all know who the cream of the crop is of that division. But to move on to the Patriots, I think this team is going to be sneaky good. I know we're saying they're going to be bad, but this is Bill Belichick we're talking about here. Now, I know Joe Judge is the offensive coordinator is struggling. Nobody cares about Joe Judge. Do we really think that guy's calling plays? Give me a break. See the forest through the trees, people. See the forest through the trees. Bill Belichick will have that team ready to go. Whoever his quote-unquote offensive coordinator is, in quotes, like, give me a break. Like, that guy's been doing it too long and too hard to not have a game plan. You're going to tell me that the Patriots are going to stink this year? I don't believe so. I believe that if we underestimate Bill Belichick, he usually proves us wrong. Just like last year, he was supposed to be a crappy team with a rookie quarterback, and they exceeded all expectations, got to the playoffs, and you saw it happen when they played the Buffalo Bills. Okay. They got destroyed, absolutely destroyed. They weren't ready. The kid wasn't ready to play in the snow and in the weather. We don't know right now if that's what Mac Jones' weakness is. But for this offense, he did what the Bill Belichick needed him to do. Day in, day out, week in and week out. And that team found themselves in the wild card. So I can't say that they can't, but there's going to be a fight. It's going to be a dog fight. It's going to be a dog fight. The entire AFC is going to be an absolute dogfight. So let's move on to another division. Okay, let's move on to another division. We're going to move on to another division I like to call the AFC North. Now, the AFC North, if you're not familiar, has Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Baltimore all in there. And let me tell you this. Cleveland and Baltimore both finished the season at 8-9. Okay? Pittsburgh finished at 9-7, and the Cincinnati Bengals were 10-7. So right now, you have a division that has 8+ wins with all of its teams. 8+ wins with all of its teams. 8+ wins with all of its teams. Okay, 8+. That's going to be hard if you're a back-end team, such as the Jets or the Patriots or the Dolphins. The Dolphins won 9 games last year. Another reason why, and people said, "Oh, well, they had an easy schedule." Yeah, they did. But look what they did in the division. The Dolphins, the New England Patriots went 3-3. The Dolphins went 4-2, and the Jets went 0-6. That's why they ended up 4-13. Right? The Dolphins, struggled and then won the games they needed to win to try to keep themselves in contention. But this year, that's not going to fly. Especially with Buffalo went 11-6 and the Patriots went 10-7 and they went 9-8, right? And that's just in the AFC East. Now we're talking about the AFC North, and it's 10-9-9. It's 10-9-8-8. Like, that's crazy. And that's not even talking about the rest of the divisions. Like, the AFC is friggin' stacked, people. S-T-A-C-K, stacked. Absolutely. So don't be sitting here thinking that you're just going to make it in with 8 wins or 9 wins, especially since they've got so many teams. Now, we're hitting on the AFC North. So Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, a lot of people are saying they're not going to get back to the promised land. And you know what? They may not get to the Super Bowl. They may not. And that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. But you want to be in it to win it. And I'm going to throw the link in the description. Maybe you guys want to join and get your thoughts. So anywho, that's so we are talking about the AFC North and Joe Burrow. Some people say he's not going to get back. I think we shouldn't poo poo him not getting back. We really shouldn't. And if you'd like, you can come join me and have this discussion with me. As I know there's only a few people watching, but that's all right. You know, we can get this going. But there it is. The link is in the description section. If you people want to join in on this AFC conversation. Now, Joe Burrow and the Bengals, do I really think uh do I really think that they're going to be really a bad team? I don't know. I can't tell you because I can't read the future, but I know with Joe Burrow they're going to have a fighting chance to get into that, to get into that game, to get into the playoffs. And injuries happen, things happen. People are gonna want to quote unquote get to the dance, right? And with a quarterback that's good, and this is why people need to understand why a quarterback being good is so important, because it gives you a puncher's chance to enjoy the um to get to the playoffs. Like right now, when we had Eli Manning, and a guy used to say this on a podcast back in the day. I don't know if you guys go to Giants.com. If you're Giant fans, you can go and go on there. There's a guy, he used to have been, his name is Len from Columbia, Maryland. Sorry, Len, didn't mean to blow up your spot, but he's a fan that comes in. And sup, Jeff, how you doing? Fan that comes in and he says every time we have Eli Manning, we have a puncher's chance in every game. And I believe that the Bengals have that chance. The Bengals have the chance with Joe Burrow to still be in a lot of these games. Will they make the playoffs? I don't know. Will they go to the Super Bowl? Probably not with the stacked AFC. But with that, he's the best quarterback right now in the division. Like hands down, best quarterback. It probably goes him, then Lamar Jackson, then everybody else in the division. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Pittsburgh. We definitely don't know what's going to happen with the Browns and their situation. I mean, their quarterback is like may never play football again. Who knows? I mean, what a scumbag that guy was. But hey, he was a good player prior to his debauchery off the field. Now, again, we have no idea what's going to happen if he decides he doesn't want to. If the NFL decides to do something, maybe he'll be out. But to me, Joe Burrow is the cream of the crop in that division, and he gives the Bengals a shot in every game to win. And that's why I'm telling you that your quarterback is good, because if you lack personnel, or you have a guy that's not that good, eventually it comes back to bite you, a la Jimmy Garoppolo, a la Ryan Tannehill. I mean, I watched the game against the Bengals against the Tennessee Titan playoff game, and Tannehill didn't play a great game, but he didn't play a bad game. But the guy on the other side, Joe Burrow, played a smart, efficient game, even though he got sacked 9 times, right? But yet they won the football game because he didn't turn the ball over in the critical manner. Now, I know that Tannehill forced the ball to a receiver and went up in his hands and it got intercepted. But, if you pay that much money, you need that guy to go downfield and win for you. And Jeff says the Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Browns. I agree, but we're just talking about the quarterbacks right now. But I agree with you there. And the Bengals need to win the division to get to the playoffs. It's going to be hard for those last remaining spots to be in the wild card. You know what I mean? It's going to be really hard to do that. So for me, it's like I need to know. I need that the Bengals have their quarterback in the future, unbeknownst to everybody else in the division. Right? We're still up in the. I wouldn't say we're still up in the air with Lamar Jackson. To me, we know what he is. He's not the greatest passer. He's a phenomenal runner. You go down to Pittsburgh, they have Mitchell Trubisky. Give me a break. If anybody thinks that guy's going to be good, I mean, he might be efficient, but he's only keeping the seat warm for Kenny Pickett. And if they're out of it or he's not delivering, he will be on the bench. Okay. I mean, I wonder if Mitchell Trubisky is wondering if he probably should have taken a job with Joe Shane and the Giants, because the likelihood of Daniel Jones probably going down with injury is far greater than what it is. You draft the quarterback number 20 overall in the first round. That guy is going to have to get some burn at some time. It's not like you have a grizzled veteran in there like Eli Manning when Daniel Jones was drafted or something like that, a guy you're going to build behind. No, you have Mitchell Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, and Kenny Pickett. Not the greatest quarterback trio that I've seen in my lifetime. So I wouldn't be worried about them on that regard. However, I would say this, if the Bengals aren't careful, they'll lose to a team like the Ravens, because I think the Ravens are going to be restacked and re put together. I think that we need to think. Jim Harbaugh is a good coach, probably definitely a Hall of Fame coach. I mean, he's been to a Super Bowl, he's won a Super Bowl, he's had his teams been competitive the entire time he's been there. I can't knock what Harbaugh has done. Beat his brother in the Super Bowl. Who does that? Who's beating a brother in the Super Bowl? My God, that is crazy stuff we're talking about here. His brother, who was a decent quarterback in the NFL, not a great one, but a decent one, actually got the nickname Captain Comeback back in the day. So, you can see where that stands. But for me, the Bengals, and we're going to move on to the next division, are the cream of the crop in the AFC North. Are the cream of the crop in the AFC North because of their quarterback, and they're going to win a lot of games. Now, if Deshaun Watson plays, which is a question mark, he moves up the ranks, and he would be the number 2 quarterback there, and maybe number 1 just because of what he's done in the league. So, but right now I can't rank him there because he's not there. As a matter of fact, the Steelers will have a better chance because they have a coach who's also probably going to the Hall of Fame, and Mike Tomlin, who's never not been to the playoffs in his tenure as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Think about that. Okay, and now again, this year might be the year he misses, only because the AFC is stacked. But with that being said, we rank those quarterbacks, we talk about those teams. We're going to move on to the AFC South real quick. And then we're going to get to the best division I feel in football after this. So the AFC South has Tennessee, Indianapolis, Houston, and Jacksonville. 2 bottom dwellers, and then 2 teams that were fighting for the playoffs. 12 wins for Tennessee last year. This is why I can't they were the best team in the AFC last year. They were the best team. They were tied with the best record in the AFC last year with the Kansas City Chiefs. They ended up winning because of tiebreakers and winning percentage. Conference record is the reason why they're number 1. The Chiefs were 7-5 with conference record, and the Tennessee Titans were 8-4, hence why they were the number 1 seed. Now, if you think to me that the Tennessee Titans are going to lie down opening day, because a lot of Giant fans are like, oh, well, we can beat Tennessee. You got another thing coming. 12 games in a 17-game schedule is enormous, and that team hasn't forgotten how to win. The only reason I believe that they're not in the dance, because they played Cincinnati, but the reason I think they're not in the dance, to be honest with you, is because Henry was not in the game. Henry was, injured in that game. I think if he's there and they don't need to rely on Tannehill, he's good. Now here, I will give you this. I will give you one way a quarterback whose booty can be good is if everything around him is great. The offensive line, the running game, and the defense. You can win with booty quarterbacks. Look what Tennessee did. They had Marcus Mariota, right? Marcus Mariota is kind of in the same position as Daniel Jones. He was injured a lot. They needed a guy to come in as a backup. They paid him decent money to be a backup to kind of push Marcus Mariota and to keep the season afloat if he went down. Well, guess what? He went down. Tannehill took over. They went to the playoffs. The rest is history. They gave him a big contract. Now Tennessee drafted probably their heir apparent and quarterback in Malik Willis. I know a lot of people don't think that, and they're like saying, well, Tannehill's not going to be a mentor. Well, I know that. We know he's not going to be a mentor. But that doesn't mean they're not going to groom Malik Willis to do more things. Tannehill, he can scramble or move around here and there, but Malik Willis has more jets. Malik Willis can take it to the house or give you a 40-yard game in the blink of an eye, and can also throw the football. So if you can refine those mechanics for him, you might have a good player on your hands. You might have a guy that might take you over the top. I don't know. We'll find out as we go through. But today, as we talk about the AFC, I think Titans are in a dogfight because a lot of the top teams that we've talked about in these 3 divisions, the AFC North, Jeff said, in the chat, and let me bring this up for you. He says the Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Browns. Well, in the AFC, you still have in AFC East, you have the Bills, you have the Patriots, you have the Dolphins, you have the Jets, and those two teams, a lot of them are going to be fighting for a wild card. Remember, 8 teams get in, 7 teams play for the wild card. So essentially, there's 14 games going on in the 2 conferences, right? And so one team gets a bye. So you want to be that team. The Tennessee Titans have been in the playoffs the last few years, have been upended by Kansas City, have been upended by other teams such as Bengals. Those type of teams are there, and you can't guarantee anything's going to happen with that. And so Tennessee's got to come out guns a-blazing from day one, from game one and day one. What's good, NYG? How's it going? A lot of people sleeping on Tennessee. Here's Mac. Mac says, a lot of people sleeping on Tennessee. People seem to have forgotten that they are a well-coached football team and that will not change even given with the personnel changes. 100% facts. I'm even going to write that in there. 100% facts on that one in the chat. 100% facts. 100% facts. Like just because you change everything, change everything. Just because you change everything doesn't mean, they're not going to win. That team's been well coached. They've been in the playoffs a lot. They've been to the divisional round. They've been ousted by teams that were better than them or ended up going to the Super Bowl. All right. So if you think Tennessee is going to come out game 1 against the New York Football Giants and lie down, you got another thing coming, because they know that every game for them down the stretch is going to be critical at the beginning. So anyways, that's my thought on that. But then there's another team that just got a quarterback, and that's the Indianapolis Colts. And this team, I feel, is going to be pretty interesting. Yes. Before we go to the Colts, Jeff says Jeffrey Simmons is one of the most underrated defensive ends. He's a beast in the interior defensive line. Yes, not to mention they have Harold Landry and Bud Dupree. So the Giants offense better get it together, because those guys are coming. And they're going to be coming from different angles, different size. Not to mention they're going to have that cornerback, Caleb Farley, coming back, okay, on their team. And their secondary is solid. They got a couple linebackers that can really run. So this team is not going to be just a walk in the park. And the thing is, a lot of people say, well, the Giants are going to come and surprise them. Well, why would they surprise them? Because they have a new coaching staff. Guess what? I take my bets on a team that's had a coaching staff there for over 3 years to win football games. To have a better chance at winning a game opening day. Do I want the Giants to win? Of course, obviously, but I got to be realistic and know that a team like this is not going to want to lose to a 4-13 ball club out the gate. But anyways, getting into Indianapolis. Indianapolis is an intriguing team because they won 9 games last year with Carson Wentz, who's now with the Commanders, and they brought in a guy like Matt Ryan, who I believe is a good quarterback and still has some tread on that tire. I know people don't want to believe that, people don't want to say that, people don't want to look at that, but he actually does. And I think this is different than Phillip Rivers in the fact that I think Matt Ryan. And NYG says, don't sleep on Titans and Malik Willis. I think they will use Willis as a runner to start while they develop him as a passer. I think you're right. They're going to integrate him in certain RPO packages. I think he's actually going to throw the football. I don't think he's going to be like a Cordell Stewart. But like I said, Indianapolis is an intriguing team to me because I really like Matt Ryan, and I think Matt Ryan will help that team. I don't know if he'll get him over the hump, but he'll be competent. Okay, I think he won't do as many boneheaded things as Carson Wentz did last year. I know Darius Leonard's not happy with it. Sorry, Darius Leonard. But Indianapolis is almost built the same way as Tennessee. They have a good running game, probably arguably the best back in football at the moment, right? I mean, they had Jonathan Taylor, and you could argue that Henry is better than him. We could go tit for tat for that on days, but to me, I don't believe that. I don't believe that Jonathan Taylor is, the best back in the game. What up, guys? How you doing? Logan, NYG, Jeffy T 3285, Mac the Giant fan. Thanks for sitting here, giving me a few minutes on the AFC preview show. Just giving my thoughts going down on who will be there. And towards the end of the show, we will give our prediction of who's going to probably be the last two standing. But moving right along to, like Jeff says, Alec Pierce is a good pickup, and Michael Pittman. Yes, they have a decent receiving core. Not to mention their offensive line ain't that bad. Okay, it's not that bad. All right, and they have a good defense. So this team will be in the mix in the games. Whether or not they make the playoffs, again, it's a stacked AFC lineup. And like I said to you, there's a lot going on in the AFC. So you've got to be on your P's and Q's. And if you're not on notice, guess what? You better be, because the rest of the AFC is on notice. It was like an arms race this year, and it's still going. And I don't think it's over, right? I mean, look at the Bills. They brought in Von Miller. I mean, he's going to change the dynamic of that defense. The reason they lost the football game last year in the playoffs against Kansas City is because they had no pass rush. So to bring in Von Miller, that changes your whole dynamic. Just like this team, they have Kwity Paye, Darius Leonard, and a few other, and not to mention who's the guy, Buckner, as their defensive tackle. So they have a decent front four, to get after the quarterback. And Darius Leonard, people forget, he is really, really good. And he does a lot at that middle linebacker position where it's pass rush, and he can drop into coverage, and he can go sideline to sideline, make every tackle in the book. So this is going to be a tough team and a tough out. And it's going to be a fun, race to the finish with them and with the Tennessee Titans, because they will. They put it together last year, and you can play ball control. That's what a good running game allows you to do. You have a lead, you can grind out the clock. You have a decent defense. You can decide, we don't need to score a touchdown here. We can get a field goal and rely on our strength. Strategy plays into a lot of this as well, especially when you have personnel on your team. It's like, think of the NBA, right? The NBA, the NFL can become the NBA on grass. You're going to have substitutions. It's all about your depth now. And of course, coaching is a big, big thing now in the NFL. It's not just players. You've got to have some coaching and solid, because decision-making goes hand in hand. When these games are crucial, what are you going to do? It brings me to the next team, the Houston Texans. This team is an interesting team because of all the changes that are going on and the influx of changes that are going on in that team. Now, do I think they're going to be good? No, but I think they'll be competitive. Listen, their coach is no slouch. He's Lovie Smith. He brought a quarterback named Rex Grossman. Pause. Just think about that name, Rex Grossman. Probably a broker, insurance broker or some sort right now. I don't know what the heck Rex Grossman's doing, but he'll always be in the lore of the Bears. And he brought that team, again, a booty-ass quarterback, to Lovie Smith brought that team to the Super Bowl on Rex Grossman's arm. When push came to shove, and they actually played a real defense and a real team that was better than them, you saw what Rex Grossman was. So Lovie Smith can actually coach. Don't get it twisted. He's a decent coach. I'm not saying he's going to turn that team around. The Texans are starting to build something on that defense. A lot of good young talent. Yeah, they had a good draft overall on the defensive side of the football. I mean, it starts with what? Their first pick in the draft this year was Derek Stingley. Okay, their cornerback was Derek Stingley, and Derek Stingley is going to help that defense go right and help that defense build. And so you can't just lie down and say, and Giant fans are like, oh, we're there, we're going to beat them, blah, blah, blah. This is one of those 50-50 games. You should win that game, but there's no guarantee because you have no idea who will be playing. And I know people want to laugh at Davis Mills, but guess what? Davis Mills is a third-round pick that came out and had a decent rookie year. Okay, a decent rookie year. And they're building around him. They're gonna either wait for a quarterback next year or hope this guy develops. And by the way, he was a 5-star recruit coming into college, okay? Davis Mills. He got injured at Stanford and blew out his knee a couple times, and so there was some medicals on him that where it came about. And that's the reason why he dropped so far. But the guy can play. Go ask his coach, David Shaw. Like the boy has some game to him. Now we may not know because we don't watch Texans every week. And NYG says Colts remind me of the Phillip River Chargers. They always are in the mix. Either just missed the playoffs or gets bounced early. That's a good comparison. I think they're that. But it's you're right. It is. But it's who did those Charger teams meet? The Patriots, the Colts, teams that were slightly better than them or had a better quarterback. I mean, Phillip Rivers played an AFC Championship game with a torn ACL. So I got to give that guy respect. And if you guys don't think he's a Hall of Famer, you guys are smoking the crack, okay? The butt crack, because he is a Hall of Famer in my eyes. And that whole 2004 class, minus J.P. Lossman, is probably going to be in the Hall someday. Eli, Ben, and Phillip Rivers. Ben and Eli probably before him, just because of the 2 Super Bowl appearances that they had. I mean, Ben had 3 Super Bowl appearances, 1, 2. So, but I digress. So the Texans are not as bad as we think. They're a rebuilding team. A rebuilding team is what you do. It's not bad to say that you're a rebuilding team. Everybody wants to be competitive. Anybody can win any given Sunday. That's what this NFL parity league has been built about. It's not like the NBA in certain regards where you know that they are. The Texans were competitive. They're not as bad as people think. You're right, NYG. They 22. They are as bad as we think. The thing is with them is it's like, again, whether the ball bounces their way, whether they have turnovers at the critical times. And a lot of these teams, the NFL is built on parity. Okay. The NBA is trying to get there. The NBA wants teams like the Knicks and the Nets and all these teams to be good, but they're not, because they're not built right and they have all these weird rules, right? That's why Golden State is always good these days. And that's why all these other teams are still stacked. And same thing in college football. You get a lot of recruits because you want guys to go to the NFL, right? The NFL, they want you to be the Cincinnati Bengals. They want you to be the Cincinnati Bengals. They want you to be able to win. What's up, Miz? What's going on? So you got the Texans, who are going to be a solid team to be it's they got a decent team, the Texans. They may not be good, but Giant fans can't just overlook them because they were 4-13 just like us, and they have their ducks in a row a little bit better than we do, and they're rebuilding. They're not building necessarily for this year. I know people don't want to hear that, but they're trying to win a few games, establish their culture, and establish who they are. Right? Brandon Cooks is one of the most. He's right. He is one of the most underrated receivers. I think Brandon Cooks is underrated because he's bounced around to many different teams, but the boy's got speed. He can play, and you're right. They're going to try to help build that team. And I think Lovie Smith is a decent coach. Have them in the right direction. Which brings me to the next team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The team that came in 1995 with the Carolina Panthers, who have, had a lot of ups and downs in their history, haven't been to a Super Bowl, but, have had Coach Coughlin there. Jack Del Rio was their coach at one point, have now brought in Doug Peterson. And I know people laugh at Doug Peterson because of what happened in Philadelphia and certain things about him. They basically are a team in rebuilding. Guess what? They have their quarterback. Check. They're building their offensive line. Check. Unfortunately, they signed Christian Kirk as to a number 1 receiver. I would not have signed that guy to that big a contract. That's just me. I think he's a solid talent. I don't think he's an over the top talent. I don't think he's a guy that is necessary. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe Doug Peterson, gets the most out of him, because again, that guy. This is why I'm telling you. I think the Jaguars are on solid footing. We'll see, because you have Doug Peterson, who knows how to coach, who built an Eagles team to be a contender, a Super Bowl contender, and was basically ousted out of the Eagles due to management and a lot of things going on in the back end of Philadelphia. But I think he's going to come in, and remember, they got some decent picks this year as well in the draft. I think they might have gotten Devin Lloyd. I could be wrong, but I don't have the roster in front of me. But I think they have a solid team. And again, the Giants play the AFC South this year, and a lot of people are saying that's going to be a gimme game. I don't believe it could be, because the difference between the Giants and the Jaguars right now is Doug Peterson is an experienced head coach. Brian Daboll is not an experienced head coach. And I think that's where I would give the advantage to the Jaguars. I'd also give the advantage to the Jaguars is their quarterback is established. They know that he's going to be the guy. They're not wondering or pandering or, trying to fluff up Trevor Lawrence because they know he's going to be the guy, right? So with that in place and the offensive line pieces that they've made, and a couple of the additions that they made, they're going to be a competitive football team as well. And you can't just be like, oh, we're going to overlook them and fall asleep on them. And then next thing you know, bang, you're in the loss column because what? You decided to overlook the Jacksonville Jaguars because they went 3-14 last year. And down the stretch, they beat some decent teams even in their division. And hey, they're the team that kept the Colts out of the playoffs with the playoff win, with the win, right? So, and probably the Colts are doing the same thing. They're like, oh, look at this booty-ass team we're about to play. We'll go in there and run ragshot on them. And they did not. And here we are. The Colts are sitting at home because they didn't take the Jacksonville Jaguars serious, right? And the only win that they had last year was against the Colts in the division. The only win. So, and like I said, they're not going to be good this year, but they're also playing us and other teams who, are thorough, are going to be there at the end. So I don't think they have a chance of making a snowball chance in hell of making the playoffs, but I think they'll upset some teams more so than they did last year. I think they'll be more competitive. I think you'll see the arrow pointing up for this team. The AFC, in my opinion, is the best division. It's in the best conference in football in the last 20 or 30 years. This is the best conference. We've been down. We're at the AFC South, the last team in the AFC South, and most of them have their quarterbacks established and new coaches and look like they're heading in the right direction. The entire conference, maybe with the exception of the Browns, or everybody seems to be heading in a direction that they feel is a positive direction, which is kind of insane when you think about it all day. Which brings me to the last and final division in the AFC. Probably the best division in all of football. Definitely the best division I've seen in the last decade, where we can go from top to bottom. And let's get started. Let's jump right in with the top team from last year. The Kansas City Chiefs, 12-5 last year. The Las Vegas Raiders were 10-7. And the Los Angeles Chargers were 9-8. And then the Denver Broncos were 7-10. So you got a pretty decent skill set. And mind you, we'll start from the bottom because I think this is something to talk about. Denver Broncos brought in Russell Wilson. Hey, Mitch is here. Hi, Mitch. What's going on, Mitch? How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, man. I'm good. I hope you like the logo here.
I like the logo. It's awesome. Hardcore sports people. If you guys don't know what that logo is, that's what it is. We're kicking ass and taking names. Mitch, I just got to the AFC West, and I was just talking about how I think the Denver Broncos, while they won 7 games, are still in the mix for a playoff spot because of Russell Wilson, right? You think about that. They won 7 games last year. What was the worst part about their team? Their quarterback. They bring in probably one of the best, if not arguably one of the best quarterbacks in football, and I think it changes their team. Now, again, they have, Mahomes, Herbert, and Carr in that division, but you can't sleep on the Broncos. What are your thoughts, Mitch?
I'm telling you, man, that division is stacked. That's my favorite division by far. And Russell Wilson is a step in the right direction, even though I felt like they gave away too much for him.
I don't like that they gave away Noah Fant. I really liked him.
Yeah, I did too. But for me, I don't even think they can make it out of the West. I don't even think so. It's that
but I mean, I think there's a possibility that 4 teams make the playoffs from the West.
It is.
Because like I said, I went through the entire AFC. I think the Bills are winning the division, and there's probably 2 teams out of the AFC, right? There's probably maybe one in the AFC North when it's all said and done, maybe 1 or 2 in the AFC South, but I can see the rest of the teams coming from the West, just because of what we're seeing here.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm telling you, this division is so freaking scary. Devontae Adams, just that addition alone makes it so much better.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, let's get into the Raiders real quick. I think the Raiders are an interesting team because they went 10-7 last year with a coach that nobody's heard about, and now they brought in Josh McDaniels, who like him or hate him, went to the playoffs with Tim Tebow. Now you give him a quarterback that can actually play. Right. Look what he did with Mac Jones last year, and they got. Did I mention they got Chandler Jones on the defense? We didn't
Right.
mention that. They got Devontae Adams on one side and Chandler Jones on the other. That's gonna be it's scary.
That team is just good all around. They're actually my pick to win the West.
Really?
But for some reason, I got Herbert winning MVP. If that doesn't make any sense.
Oh yeah. Well,
That doesn't make any sense. So
well, not necessarily. You never know, man. Maybe they end up with the same record, and he just balls out. Sometimes you just got to give the best player the MVP. It doesn't mean necessarily their record is what it is. But
right.
Listen. The Las Vegas Raiders are. I almost said Los Angeles. The Las Vegas Raiders are, to me, undoubtedly the dark horse in that division because what they did, people aren't talking about. It's sneaky good, right? I don't care. This is not a rebuilding team. You brought in Josh McDaniels. He's gonna know how to use Devontae Adams. And somebody said it last night on NFL Network when he had Randy Moss, he did well. When he had Denver, he had Brandon Marshall, he did well. And now you're gonna give him Devontae Adams, okay, who arguably is the best receiver in the game right now. And then you have Darren Waller there as well, and Derek Carr as your quarterback. I think this team is gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's the whole division is gonna be fun to watch. I just can't wait. I mean, bro, just the quarterbacks battles alone. You got Carr, Herbert, Wilson, like this freaking insane. And Mahomes, yeah, he's the best quarterback. I just made my quarterback list, and he's number one.
Right. Well, to me, Herbert's one in my quarterback list because
okay.
I think Mahomes is good and great, and I love Mahomes. But what Herbert did against the Giants with 2 minutes to go on 3rd and 10 from the 50-yard line to throw a 50-yard dime in the back of the end zone was probably one of the best throws I've seen in the history of the NFL of just what happened. And I think that kid is underrated. He went from having 4,000 yards to like 5,000 yards. He went from 8 fumbles to 1 fumble. I mean, the guy has Keenan Allen on his team. I mean, he's got a stacked. They got a stacked defense. We forgot they got Khalil Mack over there too. They got Khalil Mack and James. They're a stacked team as well. This is great. Every AFC West game should be in prime time. Should be in prime time.
Yeah.
I would sacrifice a Giants Monday night game. I would sacrifice Giants Cowboys to watch Las Vegas, Kansas City, or Las Vegas versus LA, just because that's how good they're going to be every week.
Yeah. And I actually have Herbert outside of my top 5. He's 6.
Really? Can you enlighten me who your top 5 are?
Yeah, I'm looking at mine right now. I had professional writers look at my list. Like I partner with Painted Lines. There's a bunch of Eagles writers over there. So I had a bunch of them look at my list. Mahomes 1, Allen 2, Rodgers 3, Brady 4, and Burrow 5. I mean, and you have
that's a stacked list. Wow, good list. I mean, interesting. Me, I just love Herbert, so I'm a biased person. I would put Mahomes number 2, Allen number 3, even though that could switch because Allen's pretty. People don't realize how good Allen is. They just think that Brian Dable is going to come down here and we're going to run the same offense with Daniel Jones. No. There was a discussion, like I said, about people saying booty-ass quarterbacks winning Super Bowls. I said, how many has Jess Hostetler won after he won the Super Bowl? How many did Nick Foles win or even go to the playoffs the following year? We can go down the list. Brad Johnson, okay? Trent Dilfer. All these guys were one-offs, right? Mahomes been to 2 Super Bowls. Tom Brady's been to God knows how many, 10, right? Aaron Rodgers has been to 2, I think 2 or at least 1. He's always in the mix. You know what I mean? To have a great quarterback allows you to be in the game at the end. Jimmy Garoppolo, garbage. You saw what he did in the Super Bowl, and you saw what he did in the playoffs. I don't want that guy as my starting quarterback. Yeah, he's nice for now. He may win games, but I'm not starting him. But I like your list, man. I think that's a good list. I
did top 32. Dude, this was so difficult.
Oh, I bet, man. It's hard because I went down the list because I did this exercise with Daniel Jones. And I went down the list of quarterbacks, and I said, "Who would you take? Would you take Josh Allen or would you take Daniel Jones?" Right? And you go and you go down the list like that, and somewhere at about 20, 21, 22, people started to have like, well, maybe I would take Daniel Jones over maybe a Zach Wilson or maybe Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky. And I'm like, all right, so we have to get to the bottom feeders for you even to start to consider taking Daniel Jones. And some of those are 50-50, right? So for me, I don't know, man. I love quarterbacks. I think drives this league. I love Herbert. I love Burrow. Josh Allen is one of my favorites as well. I really do believe. And let's get through the AFC. I think the AFC, it's going to be the Buffalo Bills. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the LA Chargers in the AFC championship game. To the Super Bowl. That'd be cool. Who do you have going from the AFC?
Yeah. So last year, honestly, I had the Bills and the Buccaneers going to the Super Bowl. I was so freaking close. That was from week 1. So for me, I still got the Bills, and I'm leaning towards the Rams right now for the Super Bowl as of right now.
I think, NYG 22, Bills versus Broncos in the AFC Championship game, I guess. That's good. I think NYG 22 said it best. He said that it's like a 3 or 4 team race in the NFC, and I could honestly see it being Tampa Bay. I can't sleep on Green Bay because people want to sleep on Aaron Rodgers, but they're always in the mix. But I could see it being Tampa Bay and the Bills because I think Tom Brady's on a mission. He's like, oh, I fell short last year. This year, I'm going to take names. I'm taking all your names, right? And I think he wants to retire. This is the reason why I think he wants to retire. I think he wants to win a Super Bowl and then retire, right? Like, all right, I got my number 8. I'm good now. I can retire. I think last year they were a few plays away from winning and getting to the Super Bowl. And if you want, they probably would have destroyed Cincinnati in that game. I don't think it would have been close. Just because Tom Brady would have just been a surgeon against that piss poor Bengals defense. I think LA matched up well with them because of, one, the injuries that happened. And then the game plan that Lou Amarillo put, is pretty good. But I would like to see the Buffalo Bills do it. And I would like to see them win. I would like to get that monkey off their back finally,
Yeah. Yeah. To me, they were always a running back away, which is like weird to say.
They were going to trade for Barkley. I was like, yo, they traded for Barkley and gave us like a 3rd round pick and 89th pick. They picked the running back anyways. But if they gave us that pick, I would be like, yo, Barkley, go win your championship, go get your bag and let the Buffalo Bills win because they got Von Miller. Okay, they had the best defense minus the pass rush last year, right? I called them frauds because I didn't think they played like the first defense against Kansas City when you're giving up those angles. You can't give up a touchdown in the final seconds of a game. You just can't do it. When your quarterback just brought you down there and hit arguably the game-winning touchdown or whatever, and then you go down and give it up to Tyreek Hill. I don't know what that safety is. Every time I see that play, I don't know what that safety is doing. I'm like, what are you doing on that play? Why are you coming down as Hill is hitting your face? And it's at that point you're already at a bad angle. It was bye-bye to the house. See you later.
Right. Exactly. And I was actually on this Eagles podcast, what was it, like a couple weeks ago? And I was bringing up the fact that remember that AFC championship game last year? It was it was Josh Allen and Mahomes going back and forth, 7 touchdowns. And I'm like, can Jalen Hurts ever do that? And they were like, not last year, but maybe this year. I'm like, bro, no way Jalen Hurts would go for 7 touchdowns. There's no way.
No, I don't see, but that's where you're at. That's what I'm talking about. Is you're an elite status, right? Eagles are still finding themselves. I think, you can win with, and the Eagles have won with quarterbacks similar to Jalen Hurts in their history.
Yes.
Right. I mean, but you look who won the Super Bowl for the Eagles. Some guy looking like Napoleon Dynamite named Nick Foles. Okay. So yes, I think the Eagles have a guy that's going to keep them competitive. Do I know the future of him? No. Do I think he's great? That's not for me to decide. I think right now, if you look at it, if we're talking about overall, and I want to talk. I'm going to touch on the NFC next week, but mostly I think he's a top 3 quarterback in the NFC East. I think it goes. Dak is 1, Carson Wentz is probably 2, Jalen Hurts is 3, and then Daniel Jones probably takes up the rear.
I got it flipped. I got Hurts 2 and Carson Wentz 3. You can debate. It can go either way for that one.
Well, I'm just going with this sheer resume right now and what they've done and how they look. I know people are going to say, "Well, Daniel Jones' resume is better than Jalen Hurts." Yeah, is it really? Is it really? I mean, Jalen Hurts in his second season went to the playoffs. So I can't. Daniel Jones has not even sniffed the playoffs. You know what I mean? So I got to give that to Jalen Hurts. But finishing up with the AFC, I mean, it's so stacked. It's going to be, like I said, the best conference I think I've seen in my lifetime. And I haven't been around that long, but I've been around long enough to see the likes of the Kansas City Chiefs back in the day, the Raiders back in the day, and they haven't had quarterbacks like this. I mean, the Raiders, when was their last good quarterback besides Derek Carr, right? Nobody. They didn't have a good quarterback. They had Kerry Collins one year. They had Rich Gannon when they went to the Super Bowl.
I mean, it was Gannon.
Gannon might have been their guy. And it's funny because Gannon also played for the Kansas City Chiefs. So, so it's kind of full circle. Now you have guys like Mahomes who came into the league who everyone keeps telling me, oh, well, Mahomes wasn't that great coming out. And he wasn't. But what he was so good talent-wise that you needed to refine some things to his game. That's why I was telling people this year, you don't base a quarterback on what they've done and now. You base on what you think he's going to be. And if you think he's going to be better than what you've got, look at Pittsburgh. They signed Mitchell Trubisky, and then Kenny Pickett fell into their laps, and they were like, yo, we're going to draft this guy. They didn't hesitate and were like, well, we're going to wait and see what Mitchell does. No, they think that there's more potential with Kenny Pickett, hence why they drafted him. And that's why, as a Giant fan, to me, you had Malik Willis in there in the 3rd round, I would have drafted that guy, to me, and kept him there. And what's the worst case scenario? You fire him? Great. He's a 3rd round pick. You're not investing that much in him, But when you invest in these, like, look at Derek Carr, 2nd round pick. Probably if you redid that draft now, he'd be number 1, right? He'd be going number 1. EJ Manuel, I think, was in that draft, and Geno Smith. So, and Geno is, I don't know how Geno's staying.
Where is Geno now? Where is he now?
He's in Seattle. He's going to be battling.
Oh, right. Yeah, behind Drew Lock.
Which I think he's actually going to start over Drew Lock, but, some
people really? Shit.
Just because of experience. I don't know. I think Drew Lock has a lot of talent, and I liked Lock coming out. I liked him. I liked Daniel Jones. I did not want to touch Dwayne Haskins, and I thought Kyler Murray was, he was there, but obviously he wasn't going to go. So the remaining guys I kind of liked, and I thought Shermer could have done something with Lock the same way he did with Daniel Jones. I thought he had a better arm talent, stronger sense of urgency. The thing is, in Missouri, he had a down year the 2nd year, which kind of hurt his skill set. And then you go to Denver, and then you have Vic Fangio as your head coach. I mean, is that guy really offensive material? No. They brought in Pat Shurmur, but Pat Shurmur was dealt a bad card, because he went from Minnesota, where he was the offensive coordinator of the year, to the Giants, where he was basically the laughingstock of the league, to now Denver, where he was a butthole. And left with a bunch of quarterbacks that didn't do anything. That's why I think Denver is pretty good. They have a pretty good defense, and they have some receivers out there that are pretty good, and I think Russell Wilson allows them to be more competitive. I think they win more than 7 games with Russell Wilson. I think they're in the mix for the wild card. Again, there are so many teams that we could talk about up and down the AFC roster of the 16 teams that are going to be good,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Miami's going to be as good as people think. I really don't.
I loved what Miami did. I'm telling you right now, they're going to shock a lot of people this year. They're going to shock a lot. I love what Miami is doing. I love it.
Well, I don't know. See, I don't know because, I like Mike Daniels, but when you go from, the 49ers to the Miami, you got a plethora of weapons. You got guys who can do the Deebo Samuel type things, right? Jalen Waddle can do some reverses. You got Tyreek Hill can do some RPOs and some weird stuff for you. So I like it that way. I like what they do with the offensive line. I think their quarterback is the reason that's going to be holding them back, if you believe.
Yeah.
NYG says, I can see I can see the Bills versus Bucks in the Super Bowl, a battle of the bees.
That's
Brady,
exactly what I had last year. I had the Bills and the Bucks, and that didn't happen. It was close.
I think it's Dak and the rest of the NFC as QB. Hurts has a better overall around team. Wentz has been underwhelming. Jones is Jones. Yeah, Jones is Jones. People don't, I don't need more games to know what Daniel Jones is. Everybody
Yeah.
tells me that Daniel Jones, we need to give him a chance. Okay, guys. He flashed. Okay, guys. You keep thinking that. You keep hoping that he's going to be a franchise guy.
Yeah.
Listen, I told Daniel Jones for years, right? I loved the guy. I thought he was going to be good. Last year, nope. Sorry, I had enough. Bye. You can go now. Oh, but he's only a year. Like,
And actually, for me, I have Daniel Jones 28.
oh my God! Wow, you need to send me that list, man.
Hey,
That is awesome.
I don't know why I have Baker Mayfield underneath him. I may have to flip.
Oh my God! Oh my Lord, man! People don't understand. Baker Mayfield, if you're doing careers, lining him up is better than Daniel Jones. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I know, but I was just basing off last year, and
Right.
I don't know. I'm probably going to flip that.
Well, but last year he won 8 games with his team in a division and in a conference that is better than the NFC East, right?
Yeah.
The Giants, who went from being 6-10 in a couple plays away from being qualifying for the playoffs, fell on their face, and now we got people telling me, well, Daniel Jones is better than Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm. Obviously, I mean, I would hope. I mean, those guys are terrible.
Yeah.
So like I'm not going to base my thought process on Daniel Jones against 2 booty ass guys who probably should be working at Burger King. I'm going to be basing my QB evaluation with the other 32 starting quarterbacks. That's
Yeah. So you're actually going to laugh. The guy who challenged me to make this quarterback list, what's up, Cole? What's up, man? Let's go Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly, bro. But seriously, this guy who challenged me to make this list, he has a certain criteria, which I don't believe in criteria at all, because to me, that's an excuse to make yourself look good. So he has Daniel Jones above Kyler Murray. And I'm like, this quote unquote criteria. And I'm like, I showed that list to my dad, and he's like, Mitch, your list is better than this by a mile.
What's the criteria that I'm missing here? Because last time I checked, Kyler Murray brought his team to the playoffs, has had a better overall career than Daniel Jones. And, by the way, didn't lead the league in fumbles as Daniel Jones has.
I think it had to do with, if I'm correct here, a future, like the future of the quarterback and the weapons he has. And I'm like, so you look at Kyler Murray, right? Kyler Murray had Hopkins. Sure, he didn't look good without Hopkins, but he had Hopkins. He has Ertz. He has AJ Green, the shell of what he once was, and he has James Conner. Is that more than what your Giants had?
Yeah, we had, I don't know, Barkley. I mean, Galladay did nothing. Kadarius Toney was injured. I'm just looking at sheer play. I don't look at – my criteria is what my eyeballs see, not what potential is going to be. Because if you do that,
that's exactly mine.
You'll be in the unemployment line as a GM, right? If you're a GM and you go, well, Daniel Jones, I'll take him over Kyler Murray because you know what? Potential is there. Give me a break. You know how many times you do that? Like, I look at it like this, right? That's why I say Baker Mayfield's better than Daniel Jones, just because of sheer resume. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're going to be basing them on.
Yeah, I'm going to flip that right now. I don't know why I'm flipping that.
He said the ceiling Jones should be better this year, but his ceiling is Tannehill. That ain't good enough with the current state of the Giants. I'm with you, Adam. I've seen enough of Jones. Yeah, NYG22. His ceiling is Tannehill, but Tannehill has not really done much, right, outside of a few playoff wins. And I agree with you. My comparison was he could be as good as Matt Ryan, or he could max out at Tannehill. And to me, while I like Tannehill, do you believe he's a franchise guy? What has he done for the Titans outside of lose them football games in the playoffs?
Hey, man, I'll be right back. I got to do something. I'll be right back.
It's okay.
Yep, be right back.
So for me, like I've seen enough. Jones has played in 37 games. 37. That's almost 40 games, and most of them were because he was injured, right? And or not sitting there. If you are an NFL talent evaluator and you can't seem to pull something from 37 games, then maybe your profession is wrong. Because I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy here about Daniel Jones, as everyone thinks I am, because that's what they tend to believe. But Kyler Murray has done more in his career than Daniel Jones, period, point blank. And you could say, well, they put him in a better position. I look at it like this. What can you do when the chaos is around you? Don't give me the excuses. Give me what the guys can do. Cream of the crop. I know we were just talking about Deshaun Watson, but Deshaun Watson had 4,800 yards and 33 touchdowns and like 3 to 7 interceptions. I don't have the numbers in front of me for interceptions, but a low number of interceptions, and the team went 4-13. And everyone's saying, "Oh, well, you need team, and you need this, and you need that." But Deshaun Watson is good. On that 4-13 team, he wasn't the problem. You put a team around him, he's going to be good. Matthew Stafford played in Detroit for years. You knew that he was good. It wasn't about like, oh, we got to give him another chance to see. Hopefully he can put those flashes that we see together. No, you knew those guys were good beyond the flashes and the talent. Herbert, same way. He came in to a Chargers team, came in after Tyrod Taylor got injured and balled out on a team that did nothing. But you knew he was good. That's what I mean. When I talk about these guys, that's how I look at it. I don't look at it as in, oh, well, he flashed in the past. You know how many guys flash and do nothing? That's great. It's a flash. Nick Foles flashed. The Eagles won a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? But when you talk about longevity, and you talk about the one-offs, because I look at one-offs, right? What has Brad Johnson done? What has Nick Foles done? What has Trent Dilfer done after they left, right? They're not competing. The Eagles got rid of him and Carson Wentz and went with Jalen Hurst. Hell, the Cardinals drafted Josh Rosen, number 10 overall, and then decided to draft Kyler Murray, number 1. Yeah, I understand Murray's got a lot of weapons. We're not talking about weapons. We're talking about sheer talent, okay? People want to talk about what a guy has. What about the talent that you see on the field? Does he make the throws with that talent? Because Jared Goff had a lot of talent on the field. But guess what? Jared Goff's now in Detroit, and Matthew Stafford took that same talent and won the Super Bowl. Don't tell me about talent, okay? Don't tell me about weapons. Tell me about what they do with those weapons, how they enhance it. And if they don't have weapons, can you see if they're good, right? Dak Prescott's been on a team where they've built around him since day one, offensive line, everything. Okay? They've gotten weapons for that guy. He's produced. But I guarantee you, if you put you look at Matt Stafford, people tell me, oh, well, you had Calvin Johnson. Okay, well, what was the rest of his team doing? But did you not know that Matthew Stafford was a good quarterback? Can you sit down and tell me that Matthew Stafford wasn't good? If you can tell me no, you're probably lying just to make a point. If you can sit there objectively and say, yes, Matthew Stafford was good with the shit around him, yes. If you can tell me Deshaun Watson was good on that lousy Texans team he had, even when J.J. Watt said, I'm sorry we're wasting your golden years with his piss-poor defense, okay? That's what I'm talking about. When I evaluate a quarterback, I'm not sitting there, well, here are those weapons. I don't care about weapons. Guys are going to come in and out of the lineup, okay? Tom Brady did it with a bunch of no-name receivers.
All right, I'm back. What are you talking about?
No, I'm just, everyone's talking about, oh, well, Kyler Murray has this. I'm not talking about what you have. I'm talking about the talent that's that you possess, right? If a guy is more talented than another guy, it has nothing to do with your weapons. Because I've seen a guy like Deshaun Watson who had nothing on his team and still had 4,800 yards and 33 touchdowns and led the NFL in that category. But I still have people sitting here today telling me they don't want Deshaun Watson. Like, give me a break. If Watson doesn't have all the craziness that's going on with his life, I'm taking him over Daniel Jones in a heartbeat. Not even.
I would too. I would take him over Jalen Hurts in a heartbeat if he didn't have all that crap.
Right. I mean, that's what, and I think NYG is right here. He says people look at stats and wins instead of watching the games and using their own eyes to judge QBs. Precisely, NYG 22. There was a podcast the other night. They were saying wins and losses, bro. Wins and losses. I'm like, yo, I can't help it if his defense in Texas was terrible. But yet it wasn't he wasn't the problem. He didn't turn the ball over more than 10 times that season. He had 33 touchdowns and 4,800 yards, and people told me, well, he didn't win games. I'm like, hey, he plays defense?
And I'm looking at this guy's list right now. He's got Rodgers at 10.
Wow. Listen, as much as I don't...
And Brady at 9.
Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. I mean, as much as I think Aaron Rodgers...
He has Carr at 4. I don't even have him that high.
Listen, Carr is good. I would take him again over. Like, someone told me, the entertainer, I don't know if you know who he is, but he does giant content, right? And he was on a podcast. He's like, Daniel Jones needs to have Derek Carr numbers. I looked at Derek Carr's numbers. He had 4,800 yards and 23 touchdowns. Okay. I don't want to hear just that Jones needs 23 touchdowns. He needs to get 4,800 yards. Okay. Like, I don't want him to run like, that's what I'm talking about when I talk about quarterbacks. I'm not looking at what he has. I'm looking at what he does when he doesn't have stuff. Matthew Stafford, like I said, people laugh at me, but my litmus test, if you look at Matthew Stafford, what do you have in Detroit besides Calvin Johnson? Nothing.
None really.
Right? Did you know that Matthew Stafford was good when you watched the tape? When you watched Thanksgiving and he was there playing, you thought Matthew Stafford, oh, man, he's a good quarterback. Too bad he's stuck in Detroit. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, Joe Burrow, you knew he was good when he came out. He showed up that he came out. And then guess what? They brought in Jamar Chase, changed the whole damn dynamic of the team. Do you think they do that with John Kitna? No. So I hate when people use narratives to define their quarterback thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
You know, I don't use that as Rodgers has this. Well, that's because the Packers decided, let me get Devontae Adams. I can't believe. I mean, if I look at the Giants right now, they drafted Will Hernandez, Andrew Thomas, Shane Lemieux, and Matt Pert. And then it was like, well, they didn't go for the offensive line. I just named you 3 offensive linemen. It's not my fault they didn't work out. It's not my fault they had Hal Hunter, who's probably flipping burgers at Burger King or as a bum on the street in New York, as their offensive line coach.
Yeah. And Mac, I have no idea. Like, this guy has so much knowledge when it comes to the game, but when it comes to this list, I just question everything. And he came at me when I was doing my live stream a while back, and he was like, he clipped what I said. He was like, Mitch, put your money where your mouth is and make your own list. I'm like, okay, you had Aaron Rodgers at 10. How can I do any worse? I didn't say that. I should have, but I'm like, I should have. Yeah, I'm looking at his list now too, right next to mine. How do you? Oh my god, I'm looking at this like I'm crazy.
Like, listen, I don't know if he has biasy, like, guide. Like, listen, I have some bias in my list, but push comes to shove, your list is probably it. But we can debate the top 5 because, you know, it depends on the day. Like, Josh Allen and Justin Herbert are my 1 and 1A, right? They're the 2 top dogs right now. Then I'd put Mahomes, and then it's Brady and Rodgers right after him. Right after
my dad has Rodgers number 1. I'm like, I can't be mad at that.
I can't be mad at that either. I mean, you know, he has done well. I mean, in the playoffs, he choked last year, but that's a story for another day. But my point is, and NYG said too, it's just like Cousins in Minnesota. He puts up excellent numbers, but does anybody think he's a top 10 QB? Numbers do lie. Numbers don't tell the story of how they played. Right. What happens is this: when I look at a quarterback, Kirk Cousins is. When I go down the list of quarterbacks, he's not one of the top 10 I'm choosing when I'm starting a franchise. You know, I used to do this conversation in the NBA. If you're starting a franchise right now, who you're picking? Most people are picking LeBron James or Kevin Durant, right? And then the rest will trickle down from there, right?
It depends on where you want to go. If you want to, like, for long term, I'm taking Luka or Giannis.
Right. Well, now, but I'm just saying.
Oh, now, yeah, I'm taking KD.
But what I'm saying is, like, you know, the top players in the NBA, we used to do that back in the day.
Giannis over KD right now.
Yeah, you might want to. I'm just saying, like, for me, that's how I look at it. If you can tell me that if you're drafting a pool of 32 quarterbacks and you think Daniel Jones, based on potential alone, is the top dog, then he should be there. But he's not. And that's what I think a lot of people are not understanding is, like, I don't have a thing against Daniel. He's a good guy. I want my son to grow up like him, be a smart guy, you know, go to college, get an education, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you play good football. And when you're trying to force things down there, well, he flashed or he didn't do that. That sounds more like an excuse to me than an actual what has he done well. And when you haven't said that he's done well, the only thing he's done well is throwing a deep ball. Great. You and I can throw a deep ball. Someone
Yeah.
tried to do a video of him throwing the ball in the net. You're a professional quarterback. You should be hitting the ball in the net. Like, what is this? That's like a guard hitting a free throw shot in practice. Oh, well, great. He hit a free throw. That's what he's supposed to do. He's a shooter. You know what I mean? Well, let me see it in the game because I don't care about practice. Like Allen Iverson said, practice? We talk about practice.
Yeah.
Not a game.
I'm getting tired of OTAs because these Eagles fans, man, they're like hyping up OTAs. And I'm like, there's nothing to hype up for.
Right. Oh, great. Guys are in shorts and T-shirts, run around doing exactly. That's like the mailman delivering your mail. And you go, great job, mailman. He comes every day and does the same thing. His job. I'd be surprised if he dropped the mail coming out because you do that every day. You know what I mean? Like a waiter comes out and gives you your food and you're clapping because that's his job. Okay. If a waiter came out and is carrying 10 plates and delivered them all, now that's impressive, right? It's not like we got to start thinking of outside of the box of excuses and start to watch tape because scouts watch tape. They don't just go, well, Daniel Jones had this. That's why he's not good. Daniel Jones had 70 fumbles in his career from college to the NFL. Wow. 70.
Damn. I didn't know that. God dang. But, yeah, this guy had Zach Wilson over Garoppolo.
Well, I mean, I don't really like Garoppolo, so I mean,
I know, but it's just like, come on, man.
But not over. I don't think over Wilson right now. I mean, in a few years, if they get matched up. Here's the thing I like. Here's the thing that I also hate. Right? Is when you're drafting quarterbacks, they're like, well, he's not as good as this player. Well, how do you know? This player's already in the NFL. You got to evaluate when that player is about to hit at the same time that player hit. Do you have a higher grade on that player coming out than you did on the player that's in front of him? If you did, you draft that player. You don't be like, well, we've got, Dan Jones here and we have Kenny Pickett rated higher, but we know what? We're going to not draft him because what we see. No, that's not how this works. You know what I mean? Oh, man.
Yeah.
Don't tell that to Tom Brady, NYG22. He is going to be pissed. We should make that. We should put that on Tom Brady's Twitter. Be like, this guy thinks you're not a top 5 quarterback. Like he needs any more motivation than needed. But my God, I think Tom Brady's coming out to prove the league wrong this year. I think he honestly is coming back to retire on top. That's how I feel about it.
I have him at 4. I mean, I want him to prove me wrong.
I mean, God, the guy is 46 years old and is doing things in a young man's game that should not be being done.
I know. I freaking know. It's insane.
I mean, the oldest quarterback I remember that did decent was Vinny Testaverde. He was like 43-something years old when he played with the Jets, and he had a decent year. I'm like, these guys are doing. Everybody else in his class or era, Breeze gone, Roethlisberger gone, Manning gone. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like they are all gone, and here we are sitting here. Tom Brady still doing it. I mean, he's probably on the juice, but that's something. That's something for another day. TB12. Yeah, I wonder what's in that TB12 concoction, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look at Matt Ryan, right? He's falling off the grace of the earth right now. Hopefully, with him on the Colts, he will be able to bounce back.
I think he's going to be solid for the Colts. I do.
I think so too. Right now, I have him at 23. Is that a bit low? Yeah.
No, that's probably.
You think that's right? I've been having him up and down between 16 and 23.
I think he's going to be a solid. I think he's going to surprise some people. I really do. I think people are underestimating him because he went to Atlanta. I mean, they didn't have a line. I think sometimes people need to take that pressing is a thing in the NFL where you're pressing to make plays because you have nobody, right? I think that's another reason why Daniel Jones does struggle is he doesn't take what the defense is giving him. He's trying to make a big play, and sometimes you just need to live to play another down, bro. Move on. Same thing with Matt Ryan. He had a couple new coaching staffs. His starting receiver, had a gambling problem. Is out the NFL and Calvin Ridley, right? So they were thinking they were going to have Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts. That guy got injured and is now out of the league. They traded him to the Colts for a reason. The Colts, obviously, I feel bad for the Colts. They always get these retread quarterbacks that don't do anything. But I have a feeling. I have a feeling Matt Ryan might be the best of the bunch because I think Phillip Rivers is a little too bit of a hothead, and they weren't quite right. I think if Phillip Rivers were there last year, they might have had a different outcome. I just think that would be a different way of doing things. But
Yeah.
it is what it is, right? It is what it is. And I'm going to be ending the show in a few minutes because I got some other things to do. But, this discussion about the AFC is big. Next week, I'll probably do another live and talk about the NFC quarterback picture. And that way we can dive in. And then maybe one day you and I can go over your list and we can, collaborate or have some thoughts.
Oh, believe me, I'm always down for that. My list is pretty much done. It's set in stone. I'm not going to release it until, I don't know, maybe in a couple days or a week. I just want to sit on it.
Whenever you release it, we should do a show, whether it's you and me or the panel or whatever, and go down the list and see what we deem. Because I think it would be fun to see where everyone ranks certain guys. Because there's situations when you get past 15 where you're like, do I believe in this guy? Do I think this guy? And I think it would be a great debate going forward.
I definitely agree, and I'm always down for that. And of course, Big Play Slay is here late.
Of course, he's always here late. Way to go, Big Play Slay. What were you doing? Sleeping?
He could have been bad take Slay. I'm calling him
exactly. No, and he would have done well. But Mitch, thank you for coming on to the Hurry Up Live.
Yes, I'm always down. I'm open. So whenever you do it, is this every Thursday? What is your schedule for this?
It's usually towards the end of the week, Thursday or Friday. I try to do a live show, especially when topics arise that annoy me or irritate me or just get my goat, right? And so I was watching NFL Network and they were talking about AFC. So I thought, why not talk about the stacked AFC conference? Because let's be honest, I went down the whole list. There's quarterbacks everywhere, right? So I think it's something I'm going to do. I'm going to try to do it every Thursday. It depends on my workload. Right now I have a decent workload. Next week I'll be on vacation. So if anything, I'll be streaming from a phone or something like that. But if I do a podcast, I mean, when you're on vacation with two young kids and a wife, it's hard to pull away and do a stream. But we'll see.
Believe me.
But again, thank you for coming on, joining me. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for joining us. Mitch helped move this show along. I know it started out a little rough. You have a kid, you got to entertain him while he's there. He doesn't want you to do it live. He wants to watch Bubble Guppies. So, set him up and do what you got to do. So there's some pauses in there when you listen, like, what the hell is this guy doing? Live air, dead air online. I apologize for that, but that's what happens when you're what I call my new phrase, a stay-at-home working dad. That's what I do. I am.
Yeah.
I stay-at-home dad. I'm a stay-at-home working dad because I work from home and I also am here to do everything else that the kids need. So with that being said, Mitch, tell them where they can get your content. Tell them about Hardcore Sports. Give them everything you need to give them right now.
All right. So you can find me on YouTube at Mitch Topsy, Twitter Mitch Topsy, everything Mitch Topsy. But Hardcore Sports is my main focus right now. We're going to cover all the sports. So we're going to do NFL. We're trying to get 2 content creators from each team. NBA, NHL, MLB, wrestling. I'm trying to get a couple guys for wrestling right now. UFC, boxing. We're going to cover it all, man. Realistic takes to the T.
It's hardcore as hardcore can get, ladies and gentlemen. So
hardcore sports for the hardcore fan. Yes,
exactly.
Sir.
It's going to have everything. It's like the buffet line of sports talk. You're going to get everything you want.
I don't know why we have Slay in here because he's a bad take. He has bad takes every now and again. So I don't know why.
And there's a shot to Slay. So with that being said, you can catch me on the Hurry Up Live. The Hurry Up I Do. It's my show. It's been around since 2011. Go look me up on YouTube. You can see I had 1 follower back then. I probably have 2 followers now. But hey, that's what we did. You can also catch me on the NFC East Roundup with Mac today at 5:30. We're going to go over everything NFC East tonight. We're going to give you the good, the bad, the ugly.
I'll be in the chat for that. Definitely.
We will definitely be going off on everything NFC East there. Tune in, give your thoughts, let us know how you feel. And also we have Premium Takes. It's going to be on my channel this week. We talk all sports, just like the Hurry Up, just like the Hardcore. We talk everything from wrestling to the NBA. We even have a memories thing where we go down memory lane of great sports moments. So we do everything. So come in, check us out. That's on Sundays. I know Sundays is Father's Day, but if you guys are sitting there eating your Father's Day dinner or you're having a nightcap, listen to us. We'll take you the rest of the way. Mitch, it's been a great show. Fellas in the chat, everyone, thank you so much. This has been another edition of the Hurry Up Live. I'm out.
Yep. See you guys.